573. Smokey, one thing to consider with why ESPN will increase the ACC payout. If Clemson, Miami, Florida State, and others leave for the SEC, it will cost ESPN $100 million per school instead of just giving the ACC a pay bump to somewhere, let's say, between, he said, $60 million per school. Oh, see, and I don't know, what is, just put all this together. If a team leaves and they have to pay the exit fees, does ESPN get that? No. Do they get the grant of rights? No. The conference does. And then there's the chance, again, that any of those teams could bolt somewhere else. And that gets into another. One of the things, Paul, I brought up, and you weren't here last week. So you're meaning to tell me we go to a Super 2, all right? Get that. They get that.
By the way, if that catches on, you heard it here first, the Super 2, but I like that we're using that now.
So you get these powerful conferences that are going to play their own thing, and I still cannot imagine it gets to that point, if it does, anytime like soon. So you mean to tell me Oregon, Washington, right now Baylor, Oklahoma State, who are pretty good, or last year's teams, Clemson, Florida State, if they get back to where they need to be, Clemson is, they're not going to be able to play for a national championship, but Rutgers and Vanderbilt can, and Northwestern can, and Maryland can because they're a part of the right conference.
Yeah, it's upset.
That's never going to be. Yeah, there's no way that happens.
No, and again, I keep thinking about what Bill Hancock said about how people will watch and people will watch. No, those are the people that aren't going to watch. The people that aren't going to watch, especially, are the ones whose teams used to be in the hunt, but now have been deemed unworthy because of a contract made outside their control 15 years before it happens. That's going to piss off fan bases, and you're going to lose viewers eventually. And that's the hubris of all this is going on, is that you will watch what we will tell you to watch, and you will like it, and it doesn't matter where you went to school. It doesn't matter who you're a fan of. It doesn't matter where you live. We're putting these games on, and you will watch. But if ESPN's model was all that successful, they would have had crisis points anytime during the last decade over what they're going to carry and how. So, again, this is not, they're trying to reinvent the wheel here when really all they needed to do was give us one thing that we wanted, which was a better playoff. And now they're really running the risk of pissing even more people off. They were pissing all of college football off because of 14 playoff. And now they're running the risk of making them mad forever, not just for that 1 year.
Yeah, but where else where are you going to put your games? There's only so many. That's where I think Fox can slip in and obviously do some damage here and will, and they'll have their big deal and their agreements and whatever. And then there's the streaming services, and that's, who knows where all that's really going. But yeah, there's two major conferences, and then there's the question of Notre Dame, and there's a question of ACC, and those are the two real big ones. And obviously the Big 12, Pac-12. Kind of remains to be seen here over the near future how all that will evolve. But Notre Dame staying put, hadn't been much smoke surrounding them, and that's gone on now for at least 2 or 3 weeks. You're kind of just sitting back and waiting on them potentially signaling what they might do one way or the other, and they've really done nothing to speak of. And the ACC, today, one of Jim Phillips' comments was that they need ESPN and ESPN needs them. So I think, as much as ESPN is the big bad guy, and as much as, yes, they were absolutely involved to some extent in creating all of this, they still need content. They still need, people to fill time slots. And so I do see your point of where they could come in and throw a life raft to the ACC. And so, not a life raft, but throw a little extra something their way. But my big question is just, over time, how does that work? Because this isn't going to, what little chunk of change they might throw them to revamp that contract and make them feel a little bit better about their spot and where they are and things. I just don't see how that's going to be significant enough for long enough in the near enough future for it to not be something that we walk through this scenario again in 2 to 5 years. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so that's why I'm just very curious to see what these immediately next moves are. And if there is, in fact, something that happens, because even if the ESPN and ACC agree, hey, we're going to give you a little bit more money, and this is going to kind of settle the waters, we're going to do this again in a few years. We're absolutely going to. So there's a million questions, and I don't think there's but maybe a couple of answers that have actually come out. And I know some people, it maybe gives them tire head, but I think it's been fascinating to see just how much of this brings people out of the woodworks, and even college football fans who maybe don't tweet about college football are tweeting about college football, or maybe don't care about college football in the month of July that are suddenly fascinated by college football in the month of July. So as much of an annoyance as it is for some, and as much of a complete uncertainty it is for many, it has been a boon in so many ways for the sport. Now, whether that boon is immediately going to benefit them in the here and now and then benefit them in the long run, I don't know, because it might benefit them right now and then kill them in the long run. But folks like Mr. College Football Playoff Bill Hancock thinks that they can do whatever they want to and there will be no damage suffered, and I don't agree with that. I think they do have to be calculated and careful, everybody involved, with how exactly they try and pull off whatever moves they're respectfully, individually trying to pull off.
Here's a couple of texts.